Mary was going to follow the chat, but she's not with us this morning due to an unforeseen emergency. We'll just pick that up as we go. There's not many of us, so we're just going to go with the flow. So if you want to put your hand up or say something, ask a question, just feel free to do it, and that just keeps the flow flowing rather than wait to appropriate places to stop. If you prefer to ask verbally, we'll deal with that. And please respect other people's opinions and backgrounds. And the Zoom chat will be saved for follow-up. And if you'd like us to contact you after the session, please do so. And the recording will go on our YouTube channel some point in the next couple of weeks. Whenever my colleagues are around to do it, because that bit I can't do. And my screen has frozen. The structure, basically, we'll have a short introduction, which we're doing now. Take-home messages, what Abilia can offer, what AISee can offer, the benefits of cognitive welfare technology, and what we can offer jointly together. AISee stands for Advocate, Identify, Solution, Educate, and Empower. We span across public, private, third sectors, and will happily work with all in partnership. We offer advocacy, assessment, evaluation, test for change project, and enhancement training. We are Institute of Training and Occupational Learning Accredited Centre, and with that we have 10 workshops and 6 short courses that are all independently accredited, and we are an accredited advocacy centre with the International Advocacy Practitioners Association. We're neurodivergent-led, independent, and we bring combined living and professional experience. I'll just give you a practical example of that. In my household alone, we have autism and learning disability. We have ADHD and depression, and we have ADHD and autism. And some of the conversations here can be really quite interesting and challenging, but we got on with it. AISee, we have corporate and professional accreditations, mandatory and statutory registrations. We're insured and we're independent. And if any of you wish, you can go to our website and you get access to our code of ethics, principles and standards of professional advocacy, taxonomy of approach and learning, and our charter of wellbeing. And we work with the hashtags at the bottom of the screen: SIA, CPERG, IRL, and they're all for PCP. SIA is Common Interest Holistic Advocacy, working on the basis that if we get it right for an individual, then we're getting it right for the whole team around them, including family and support workers. CPERGs, Contributed Participatory Engagement Resource Groups, which is why we get all our ILs, sorry, which is inclusive reflective learning, and all of that is for positive collaborative partnerships, which always deliver better in my mind. What counts as cognitive wellbeing technologies? What I've done in this screen is I have taken I think it was the Swedish terminology, and listened to community here in the UK and what they perceive them to be. And when you read the screen, you can see that one gets a sense they have the same very important objective, and that's about improving the quality and standards for people's life. And one underlying that thing that we will go on to mention is invest to save. Or in my phrase is a social return on investment, because I don't think we can ever save money. You can only make the buck go further. Why AISee do we support cognitive welfare technologies? The answer to that in part is because of our name and our practice approach. We listen to our community via our drop-in advocacy cafes, clients, their families, clients and their professional partners, and through our professional networking body. We did a project a couple of years ago where we were the key reflective learning partner. The publication report was Informed Solutions for Better Outcomes. I took a look back through that research, and I was able to identify that 72% of the participants between the ages of 11 and 32 could potentially benefit from a cognitive welfare technology. We support our thinking, but academia informs us that young people with learning disabilities become more involved and empowered when using time and planning aids, part of the cognitive welfare family. Professional experience, we know one example matters for diary reminders, various different types of reminders, but not just for those with LD, but for others with other neurodivergent people. For relevance sake, should we be exploring the benefits of cognitive well-being? For relevance sake, let's consider the reflect on the following. You've got three. I'll let you read it while I speak. The three pieces of research on there. and let me draw attention to the potential savings in each of the three reports. The first two are associated to individuals predominantly with autism, but when you take the combined potential saving, which is all just short of 14 billion overall, that's across the whole of the UK, and bearing in mind that was based on 2014 and 2018 figures as published, and it's predominantly associated to lost productivity. Lost productivity is based on parents and carers, those with autism spectrum alone, and the benefits where you're paying out a benefit and not getting there's no work, no occupational inclusion to that unless it's volunteering, which there's a different occupation on that. The latter one, which was published in November last year by the Local Government Association in England, I think it was, they identified that by scaling up some social health and social care practices, you could get an invest to save benefit of £3.17 for every pound spent. And how much of that, for example, relates to or comes from the lost productivity component? Can any of you tell me? Have a guess. Out of that 317, how much do you think comes from that lost productivity component? Anybody want to hazard a stab? Okay, who's away Googling now to see if they can find out? It actually works out at £2.37, which equates to 74.76%. Those are staggering. So I suppose should we be considering cognitive well-being technologies in a more practical sense at younger generations and what they're currently considered for in many of the commissioning processes. Is this academic supported? Yes, societally it is, from a piece of work that was done in just as COVID was kicking in, but we managed to get it finished, called Listening Globally, Thinking Nationally, Acting Locally. We can draw contrasts from that piece of work with the Local Government Association. We can draw contrast to the 17 systemic challenges relating to autism, LD, and ADHD as identified by over 140,000 participants across 36 countries. They can't all be wrong. So what are those systemic challenges? I am not going to read them out. You will get them on the slides when we share them, but I'll give you a bit of time just to browse through them just now, and then I'll move on. Putting the last two components together, the case for prevention in adult social care and beyond is clearly there, and we need to be looking at it, how we can do things better and make the buck go further. If you're happy, I'll shunt on. The other thing that we need to do as well, and that's just the triangles are just for symbolism, nothing else. By addressing one or more of the 17 systemic challenges, one can also contribute to one or more of the 9 identified social sustainable development goals, and one that is included is service sustainability, and that can span across education, employability, social care, a whole lot. And that is, I'm coming back in a bit. I'm now going to hand you over to Bryn, who's going to get a little bit more depth of what Abilia has to offer. And just for point of clarity, we did in some of our pilot study we did, Informed Solution for Better Outcomes, make several references to one of Abilia's component that was recognised as having potential for a number of those clients. Bryn, it's all yours. I'm going to stop sharing and you can share.
Thank you. Press the right button and help. Sound. Okay. So good morning all. Thank you for joining. As Tom says, if you've got any questions, then by all means jump in when we're ready. We're a small group, so it's nice and friendly. My name is Bryn Morgan from a company called Abilia. We're a Swedish-owned business. Is my screen gone? No, we're a Swedish-owned business, and we've actually had a presence in the UK for over 50 years. Um, Initially as a company called Toby Churchill, and we were acquired by the Swedish company Abilia about 10 years ago. And we have four areas that we work in: communication aid, which is the original Toby Churchill business; environmental controls, which is largely an NHS niche product; what we call alarms, but really it's epilepsy purely; and then our cognitive solutions, which are probably the smallest part, well, about the equal part now in the UK for us. But in Sweden and Norway, it's by far and away our biggest piece of our business. We turn over as a group around £35 million, and close to £30 million of that is in cognition solutions. So primarily spent in Sweden and Norway. And when you think that they're a population combined of around 16 million people, and we're the number one in the market, but we're not the only players in the market is probably worth around £50 million in total. So the commitment from those two countries in looking after people and supporting people with these types of solutions is just extremely run-of-the-mill business place. It's taken as is. So we probably all experience moments where we're cognitively impaired and don't necessarily realize it. So Tom's mentioned about his family at home and things like that. But for those of us that aren't have a cognitive disability, we can also experience times when we are perhaps when we're tired, or when we're hungry, or when we've got a lot at work and we're stressed. We don't necessarily always think in a strategic and logical way that we would normally do if things were kind of normal for us. So we all experience that, and we all experience time in a different way, and we reference time in a different way. We had at home, it's probably over just coming up to a year ago now. In the back of our house, we have a conservatory, tiled floor with a tile reveal around it, and one of the tiles next to the patio door had come away, and I bodged it a couple of times. It wasn't a very neat fix at all. And this one evening, I was watching the football, and my wife came down and said, and when she walked into the room, I could see her eyes laser-like on this tile that hadn't been kind of fixed properly. And she said, "When are you going to do that?" And I said, "Soon." So she went away quite happy, thinking soon was going to be I was going to do it at half time. But I knew I would have to take the tile off, clean it all down again, clean the wall down, and go to Wicks's to buy the bonding agent to put it on properly. So it was a job for the weekend. So when she came back down into the room at the end of the game, it's fair to say that we both lost that evening, because I hadn't done what she thought I was going to do, and she was very upset about it. And my team lost as well. So it wasn't a great evening all round. But that whole sort of challenge around time for somebody who's perhaps cognitively impaired just exaggerates it. And also, it's a daily, hourly challenge throughout what they're doing. So our solutions are around supporting people with a variety of conditions for whom the cognitive solutions are quite generic. But for people that sit in those categories, we think our solutions have a place to help them to be more independent, to help them think a little bit straighter, to put the routines and the communications in place. And that's very much evidence in the work that we've done in Sweden, Norway, and also some of the activity that we're now creating in the UK as well. So we have 5 solutions at the moment. There's a 6th one which we're hoping to release at the end of the year. And they are low tech and digital. So the 2 on the left there, Memo Timer and Memo Dayboard, are low tech. They're just very much standalone devices, and they do what they do. And the 3 on the right are digital. So I'm just going to very quickly run through a bit of an overview of how they work. So this is a timer. It's handheld. Comes in 4 different flavors: a 2-minute one, 2, 4, 6, 8, 5, 10, 15, 20, 15, 30, 45, and 60, and then 20, 40, 60, 80. And the idea being is that, like, with an egg timer, you can turn up and down, you can see the time going down. With these timers, if you select the 15-minute timer, the light pillar on the left-hand side indicates what the time is. So you can see time, the 15 minutes, as a concrete thing. And as the time goes down, the lights go down. So when you're coming towards the end of this activity, you can see that you can see the lights go down, you can see you come towards the end of this activity, and you can either prepare to kind of get ready to finish that activity or get ready to start something else. So I've been used in so many different ways. We were told 12 months ago of a gentleman in Warrington who was hospitalized after spending 2 hours in the shower. He's had OCD, and he just scrubbed and scrubbed and scrubbed to the point where he was extremely sore and needed hospital treatment. He's now got one of these which are waterproof. It hangs up in his shower, presses the 10-minute one, and it's just enough to spark him out of what he's doing and to come out. It just gives him that trigger. It could be a 2-minute one for brushing your teeth. It could be a 60-minute one we've been used for people in work placements, where the placement's going absolutely fantastic, but they go for their break, lunch break, and then they don't come back. But 60-minute timer in the pocket, the sound down, just vibrates, and it's just the right thing, just to kind of help them get back to where they need to be. Memo Dayboard is a difficult to display for presentation, but it's a magnetic whiteboard with lights. Each of these little light dots that you can perhaps see on the left-hand side represents 15 minutes. So it gives you a rough idea where you are in your day. The black on the right-hand side represents nighttime. Comes in 2 different flavors, a 12-hour board. This is a 24-hour board. A 12-hour board is 12 plus 12. So as a whiteboard, you can write your activities on it. It's magnetic, so you can put pictures on there and you can put alarms in there. So I could have an alarm at, say, 4 o'clock, and it would prompt me to go to the board, and I can see that it's time to take my medication. That's as complicated as that board gets. It's standalone. If someone's routine is the same every day, then brilliant. You just kind of have to kind of set it up once. If the person's routine changes on a daily basis, then someone needs to be present to make those changes. So that's why we class it as being a low-tech board. We then have 3 digital solutions. The first one being Handy Calendar, which has been around for over 20 years in Sweden. Initially as a piece of software on a PDA, but now as an app on Android and iOS. And it allows people to be mobile, people to kind of perhaps use their existing technologies, but gives them a visual timetable and social stories using their own pictures, sorry, their own pictures, and just customizing it completely for themselves. So as an example, we've got I've got on my demo one, I've got it set up for someone in a work placement. So, you know, on the left-hand side there, I've got an alarm that prompts me to leave the house to get to work on time. And I've got a body of text there that tells me all the things that I need to remember when I go. I could even have that as a checklist if I wanted to. And again, if I touch one of the buttons at the bottom and then I tap on the screen, I can have it audibly spoken to me as well. You can use your own pictures. So I've identified there the bus that this person needs to take before they get to their work placement. And then when they get after the work placement, as long as they've got connectivity, they can click on the next thing, which is going to be open up their Google Maps, and it's going to give them the walking route to wherever it is that they need to go to. And the link could be a YouTube video, it could be a BBC cooking guide, but in this instance, we've used
Brent, can I stop you there before you move on? Catherine put her hand up. She's got a question.
Yeah, I just wanted to, on the other slide, you said that somebody has to be there to set the agenda for the day. But can you not preset it for the week if
Yeah.
somebody does different things on different days?
So you want about the low tech board, this one?
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, you can set it up for however you want it to be. So if the person's routine isn't going to change Monday to Friday, then that's absolutely fine. You don't need to do anything. Obviously, you take the day off and things like that.
Yeah, but if it does change every day, can you preset it for every day?
No, because it's a whiteboard, so you've got to write on it. If you want to change it every day, then the digital solution that I'm going to show you in a minute would be
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So and also we could put in there a message. We can have it link out, say, to WhatsApp or text message, that if you've got someone in your contacts, you can send a message to. So if you, for example, if you were doing some kind of travel training where you had somebody who was in a work placement, and they could send a message, you could have the prompt to send a message to say, Mum, I'm on my way home now, or whatever that message might be, preset. We can also put in a pre-recorded message. So it can be someone familiar to that person, so they can provide a prompt using a voice that they recognize for something they don't want to do. So just as a, for example, we have a user in Shropshire who lived in a care home, and she would only brush her teeth for one particular carer. If the carer wasn't working, she wouldn't brush her teeth. The carer got promoted and was only in the home twice a month, and the lady's dental hygiene obviously went extremely downhill. So the guys there, they had one of our devices, and they recorded the carer that she was attached to, saying, Carol, please can you brush your teeth? So Carol then heard that every morning and every evening as part of her prompt to brush her teeth, and that got her back on track to continue to brush her teeth again, which was a great outcome. Not one we would have thought of, but they kind of worked it out for themselves. So how you can configure it and put things together is down to your imagination. And then we have Memo Planner, which is perhaps more aligned to what you were looking at, Catherine. So this is a digital version kind of the magnetic whiteboard. So this is a dedicated device. The user can't do anything else with it. They can't go on the internet. They can't play games with it. It's just got our software on it. And it comes as a large, which is this one there that's on the wall, which is our biggest selling product, both here and in Scandinavia. It just has that attraction to it because it being so different. It also comes as a medium, which is normal tablet size, and it comes with a companion app because obviously this device is designed to kind of stay at home on the wall. But if someone's active and mobile and out and about, they can have a mirror image on their phone as to what's on the device at home. And as you can see there, the calendar's split left and right. And we have the time pillar down the center. And again, each dot represents 15 minutes. So we kind of have that 15-minute principle just to kind of have something to attach it to. And the calendar activities you can split left and right. It might be homework, homeschool. In Scandinavia, they have them a lot in care homes. So on the one side, you'd have everything that the care home would do, social activities, menus, things like that. And then the right-hand side would be individual things that are personalized for that user. So again, there's an example on the left-hand side. That's quite busy, but that's an example of what it could look like. At a glance, this person's checked. Sorry, just give me a second. The person's got the green ticks in it, so we've made it a checkable activity, and that allows at a glance a carer or loved one to look and say, oh, actually, they've ticked those boxes. It's indicating that they've probably done those things that we wanted them to do. So you can use your own pictures. You can have a checklist like I've got there in the middle of the morning routine. Pictures quality is not very good. But all the things for that person, just to prompt them to do the things to kind of get ready in the morning. And then on the final one there, on the memo planner, we can put in a personalized video as well. So you could record a video in this person's home and upload it into their calendar. And again, that one there, I've got an example of locking my front door. So it's actually my front door, all the things I need to do to kind of measure it, as well as the prompt to do it. But it could be a medication prompt from someone that they know saying, Mum, please, can you take your medication? Don't forget to take your medication. Or it could be anything you want it to be. Your imagination is what's going to create it. My laptop stopped. Yeah. And then our third product is Carrybase, which is a cut down version of the previous two. It's a smaller device, and we can configure that screen. So everything there on the left-hand side, if you just wanted to have the day, the time, you could do that. All activities for the day are on the right-hand side, so you can see what's gone before, you can see what's now and what's next. And we can tap on it. Whatever I tap on screen as well, it will speak and tell me what it says. So I can tap on the day, it'll tell me. I can tap on the activity and it will tell me. And when the activities, 3 o'clock comes, there'll be a prompt and Lisa's visits will come on the full screen. Extremely configurable for the end user. A lot of things I've shown you perhaps kind of are quite busy. The calendar clock Carrybase is probably geared more towards an older person's market, but it's extremely easy to use. And all of our solutions, the 3 digital solutions that I've just showed you, can be remotely updated through a web portal called Abilia. So you can look after multiple people and put activities in their calendar, or it could just be the family member as well that kind of tapping in and helping the person get supported. So there's Abilia there. So they can support Handy Calendar, Memo Planner, and Carrybase. So the access for a care organisation supporting a local authority, or it might be, is all in one place. That's also where we can retrieve some of the data from some of the data in terms of activity usage, and in the near future, we're hoping to drill down that to kind of be able to give data on how someone's engaging with the device around their medication prompts, nutrition, hydration, social interaction, exercise, etc. I've then got 2 slides. I'm going to show you this next slide first and then go back to the video. So just as a for example, so we have a client in Dorset in the South Coast, and Darwin Care, his care provider, visited the tech lounge of Dorset Council and saw the memo plan and thought it would be a good opportunity for Kai. So Kai's a young man who was extremely frustrated because he was receiving 4 care visits a day, and he wanted to be out and about and go and do his own thing. But because he was having these 4 care visits, he felt he was being tied to kind of having to stay at home. So they thought they'd give it a go. They bought it out of his personalized budget, and ran his care visits alongside the device, and very quickly became aware that Kai was engaging with the device so much they could safely reduce his care visits from 4 a day to 1. And that meant an overall reduction in his care package for the license of the memo planner by £18,000 over 3 years, which obviously is a fantastic outcome to redistribute those costs. And Dorset Council obviously very quickly cottoned onto this and are now running it out and spreading out across their services to whoever it would be appropriate to. Obviously, not everyone is going to be able to kind of achieve those cost savings, that cost reductions that we did with Kai. But even if it was £1,000, it's still £1,000 that you can attribute somewhere else. Because going back of a very short video, which I'm going to have to link out to YouTube because the one on my desktop wasn't working, which is a very short video from Kai, and hopefully the sound, please tell me if it's not, sound's not on. Can you hear that, Tom? Good.
So I'm really impressed with how Sam has got on using the memo planner, and as an organisation, Darwin, we are embracing the increased use of technology-enabled care. So to partner up with Abilia has been really fantastic. Their products are really user-friendly, and the functionalities mean that Sam is able to use the memo planner really well, but also it gives us really important data.
Sorry, Tom, can you see the video? Say again.
It's coming up on my screen,
It is, okay,
I can hear it.
Okay, just really apologies, but I clicked on the wrong link. I put the wrong link in. This is Sam, not Kai. But I'll carry on because it's
on how it's going, and to provide that overall support and supervision. And another really important element of what we're doing in Darwin. Hi Sam.
Yes.
We're here to talk about your memo planner that you have now.
Yes.
A piece of technology that you're using with your support. How do you think it's going?
Going good, yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You've picked it up really quickly, haven't you?
Yes.
How to use it.
Yes.
As we've seen, it's very impressive.
Yeah.
So what is the best bit about using the memo planner?
That it makes a notification on alarm on it, and it makes a noise, so I know when I don't forget what I'm doing, like house tasks or whatever.
Excellent.
Yes.
So then, when it reminds you,
Yeah.
once you've done the task, what would you do after?
Tick it.
Tick it off?
It says a checklist, it's got a green tick thing on there.
Great.
Yeah.
And that helps with your anxiety, doesn't it,
Yes.
as well?
Yes.
So you know what's next in the
Yes.
day, which is really good.
Yes.
And I think you're doing fantastic with it.
Yes.
Not only are we using Abilia's memo planner, we're also utilising their memo dayboard, which is a more of a basic, user-friendly cognitive aid for some of our individuals that don't have a greater understanding of technologies. Nevertheless, this assistive technology is really useful for them, and we want to be fully inclusive in the offer of different products which help independence. And another really important element of what we're doing in Darwin is partnering up with Dorset Council on their optimisation project, and this is a really fantastic opportunity that I see of greater a collaborative working between providers and the local authority. So during this project, we are working on multiple different pathways, one being tech, and how we can incorporate it better within our services to maximise our staff capacities to help with the overall demand on services within Dorset. So I'm really privileged to be part of this project, and I can see the value and the potential savings that can come from this. But ultimately, what we are doing is enhancing the independence of the individuals that we are lucky to support. And that's what excites me most about this project.
With me a second, I work out how I get back to. So that wasn't the video I thought I was going to show, but that was Sam and not Kai. I had a choice between the two, and I went with Sam, and obviously clicked on the wrong, put the wrong link in. I was having a few technical issues, so I do apologise with the video that was the plan on show you. But Kai was the first resident with Darwin Care that they used, and it was so successful they then bought one for Sam. And the interesting thing with Sam was they went and put the device on the wall one afternoon and said to him, "We'll be back in the morning to show you how to use it." And then when they went back, he'd filled in 80% of his activities for the week. Needless to say, they were all the activities he wanted to do, and so the ones he missed out were the ones that he wasn't so keen on. But that's how simple and intuitive it is to use to get set up. We were going to share the presentations afterwards, Tom. What I'll do is I'll put the links into both videos so it's easy for people to access. And that's pretty much me wrapping up. And I'm going to hand over to Bill to kind of finish us off, unless anybody's got any questions. No, Bill, over to you. I'll stop sharing. Bill's not here anymore, is he? Is he?
Bill, you lost your connection.
Right. Are we on?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Yeah. So working with, obviously the partnership with Abilia is very important and potentially beneficial to both parties. We're very solution focused as a group, because we have seen through personal and professional experience the impact that small changes can have to the quality of life of individuals. And one of the questions we ask is, what is it? What is the systemic change that needs to take place that can allow people to make better use of their lives and have a higher quality of life? And one of the things is having the correct data. And in order to have the correct data, you need to ask the right questions. So we have seen a very significant gap in current provision. And this has come to us from social care professionals and health professionals, particularly concerned about, for example, hospital discharges, about selecting appropriate placements and care services, is in understanding an individual. And whilst no one wants to reduce an individual human being to data is absolutely vital in understanding the very specific needs that an individual may have and their individual strengths. Because what the last thing you want to do is to be spending money on something where money doesn't need to be spent. There's a huge opportunity cost of that, as bed blocking demonstrates in terms of hospital discharges. So what we want to do is to produce a tool that will enable those involved with individuals who may have a set of needs to understand what those needs were. In other words, to ask the right questions. And the set of questions that concern us are around functional skills. And by functional, we don't just mean the physical act of doing, we also understand it to be the cognition behind that. For example, a family relation of mine who's now 96, very able, qualified lawyer and barrister, etc., is degenerating cognitively. and that's impacting on his quality of life. And what one wing of the family says, well, he should be in a care home. The other wing of the family said, no, that's completely unnecessary, and it would actually erode his quality of life if he wasn't in his own place with his own possessions and having control over the way he manages his daily routine. What he needs is help in very specific areas. So the areas that we're interested in as a family are around short-term memory, which has, I won't say collapsed, but someone who's very, very able and who has an extraordinary long-term memory. The short-term memory has really gone to pieces. He also has a significant financial vulnerability in that if someone phones him and says they're from his bank, he will believe it and he will give the information across. He can't remember his PIN number. And that makes him vulnerable. And again, one wing of the family wants to put in place lots of restriction to how he can, for example, use his bank card. The other wing of the family is saying, no, we need to be much more intelligent about this. And rather than just restricting everything, we need to know what he can do, what he can't do. If he can't do something or he struggles with something, is there a specific support that can be put in place? So as a team, we've been developing a functional skills assessment, which covers a very, it's intended to be generic. It's not designed specifically for a particular disability or cognitive disorder. It's really something that you could use for a neurotypical population or a very able population. So you should be able to use it, for example, with a 16-year-old going off, or 17-year-old about to go off to university, and say, well, these are sort of areas where this young person is probably going to need additional support as they transition from school to college living or independent living. And similarly, if someone is transitioning from being in hospital to being at home, or going into a care service or coming out of a care service, which happened, then asking the right questions, getting a real sense of where this person's needs are, and to develop quite a comprehensive profile, which can not only be a snapshot of a particular moment in time, but can also show decline over a period of time. So you could take my family relative and say, well, over a period of 5 years, it's clear that there is increased vulnerability in certain areas, and therefore supports can be put in place that will save huge disruption to his life and save money in terms of care services if the right questions are asked and the right solutions are identified, which is what we're really interested in and we know works. So the functional skills assessment will cover cognitive abilities, cognitive decline. It'll cover physical abilities, the ability to prepare food, to manage. I've mentioned managing finances, and this is where we think we have a particular hook with the financial services sector, because they have a very high level of concern about the number of scams that are taking place, the vulnerability of elderly and disabled people. And so we think that in terms of getting the funding to develop this further, there's a very significant hook. So that's the idea. What it would mean is that an individual themselves or a third party concerned with that individual, a family member or care worker, for example, could develop this functional living skills profile, and it will really give what we hope to be a crystal clear image of where not only where needs are, but where strengths are, because you can build on strengths to eliminate or reduce needs. And that's the aim of what we're doing. We expect to have it up and running at least for testing by the summer, and we think it will be a very, very low cost, very, very high impact intervention that will support many those of us who are concerned with individuals who have support needs. So I think I'm very happy to take any questions about that. I think one of the challenges we face in trying to do something that's generic is the scale of the questionnaire itself or the assessment tool. And so we're trying to get around that by adding in lots of skip questions. So if, for example, there are no concerns about an individual feeding themselves or toileting themselves or whatever, that you skip. You don't need to laboriously plow through several sides of A4 paper, ticking boxes. You're basically saying that there are no concerns in this area, and the focus can then be on where there are specific concerns. So there are all sorts of dilemmas in terms of usability and user experience that we have to, hoops that we have to jump through. But and what is particularly appealing to us is that this is very low cost. It's a low cost, low tech intervention with high impact. And we think that hopefully 12 months time we'll be able to have another webinar where we're pointing out the value of this to individuals, to care services, to local authorities, for example, in being able to far better target expenditure and identify needs. So that's all I have to say at the moment. If there are any questions, I'm very happy to answer. Tom.
I don't have any because obviously I'm involved in it with you. One thing I would re-emphasize is Bill's absolutely correct the way we've looked at this, because Bill, Corey, and I come from slightly different backgrounds, albeit there are areas that overlap. But it's also the lived, the professional, and the practical experience, because of those overlapping areas and the differences. It brings a different context and a different perspective to every component of it that we're building in. And is it needed? Is it not needed? So it's multi-professional backgrounded, if you like, that's getting behind this, or is giving the insight into it to see where and how it can really work. One thing that enthuses me about it is we've already got interest in demand of it, and I'm in early tentative discussions about possibly piloting it with some potential partners. So it's there. The thing I really like about its potential is it can support organisations like probably all the workers in this room, this webinar, to enable them to have better, more accurate, more individualised data. So therefore, you can target more effectively.
Yeah.
And that in turn will bring about greater output and outcomes, and have hopefully a more positive impact when implemented.
Yeah, I probably didn't emphasize enough the value of the data across a population set. So within a local authority, if you're talking about adult care, for example, or you're talking about children transitioning between school and post whatever happened post, to be able to look at data and say, there's. So I think that one of the things that will come across as reflected in the studies on children's mental health in schools is this issue of anxiety, and I question how much money is being spent reactively by services rather than proactively. And as you know, if you're dealing with let's say a population of young people who exhibit high levels of anxiety, and anxiety is the barrier to them engaging and to having a high quality of life in terms of social interaction, then there may be ways of addressing the issue of anxiety before you start spending money on putting huge amounts of what is often quite ineffective support into place. So I think that having the data is you're not reducing the characteristics of an individual to a set of numbers, but it's there in a supportive way to identify where the very specific needs are. And remember, I think also, given the nature of the certain section of the population, they themselves may not be able to identify and express to others where their needs are. So sometimes it requires this external prompt or set of prompts. If you think of a young person with autism, for example, they will often have very high levels of anxiety, but may not be able to use the word anxiety. It may be because of alexithymia, the inability to identify emotions, identify causes of those emotions. It may be very difficult for them to identify it. So sometimes a tool like this, externally, I suppose, in terms of the data is coming externally, unless the person is filling in themselves. But that externally assessed and synthesized data can be extremely useful, extremely important, life-changing.
One thing I will add, the way we're shaping it, or currently shaping it, and this may change marginally, but I can't see it changing much, is it forces individuals, either for themselves or those supporting them, to granulate down and go through a process which gives better identification, which is often, and I need to choose my words very carefully here, which can often be unintentionally missed or not interpreted enough.
I think, as a very good example of that is, again, talk about my family member. We, in discussing this as a team, we came up with the concept of generational naivety. There's a group of elderly people who are, because of the way they've been brought up and they're been educated about banks and their perception of banks and so on, when someone phones up and says, "I'm from NatWest," you believe them. I wouldn't, and I don't think other people would. But there is this generational naivety. So suddenly we've got a new term, or generational vulnerability. We've just by asking the questions, we've generated this new concept, which may allow financial institutions to make better sense of the huge population that they're dealing with of elderly and disabled people who are themselves vulnerable.
I'm so sorry, I do have to go. I've just put a message. Thank you so much. It's been really, really helpful. I have seen one of these working in somebody's house for the first time the other day. And I'm really interested in us having these devices for far more people in Sheffield. So, can you send me the presentation over? If you send it to Michelle and just say, can you forward to Catherine? That would be really cool. That would be amazing. And I think we're going to get you to come to our team maybe to do a demonstration with a group of people with disabilities. Again, I think you might have already been, but
I think my colleague Tony's in contact. So
amazing. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. That's brilliant.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Catherine. I'll just add on one of the things that Bill was saying in relation to our FSA. Our current thinking is to get an option of 2 reports, and we're a little bit to go yet. One will be a summary report, the other one will be a full in-depth report, which will give you a lot more information. However, that's unless anybody's got anything else on the FSA. No, I will go back and finish my little bit then, and then we'll see where we land. And you share my screen again. Why can't all technology work the same way? You see that okay? Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Cognitive welfare technologies, as to focus on the UK context. That's the list on the left. There is how communities perceive what it can do, as a summary of the list, not necessarily a full comprehensive list, but summary of what some of the stuff we've got. Do we at AISee believe cognitive welfare technologies contribute to alleviating one or more of the systemic challenges, to an invest to save model of support, to improve independence, better inclusion by supporting an individual to contribute to society and be part of wider society? Yes, we do. And from listening to community, clients and families and professionals, and from a previous potential project with Abilia, we at AISee have developed a 10-point reflective learning evaluation process associated to technologies. And I'll just shut on. And without going into it in too much depth, but that is basically it. Project overview, project scope, descriptions, user indications. One of the big components that came out of it is benefits, the claimed benefits, the outcomes for the individuals, their supporters, the commission authority and partners, case studies, policy and practice. And what is that actual return? One of the other key things that came out initially as well, when we were exploring this consideration, was risks. What are the safeguarding risks? What are the positive risks in taking for associated to confidence building, etc., etc. And a lot of these actually come in at the upfront component when you're deciding what piece of equipment to use and what you need to build in there in terms of content and do's and don'ts. So yes, that is there. The reflective learning is about improving the confidence and resilience, building community and localization relationships and development. That cuts across the board. We'll have a section on conclusions, then one on considerations for actions, and then one on case studies, etc. And all of that will be associated to a specific project. So just shunting down. Oh. Who can benefit from cognitive welfare solutions? Individuals, their families, their support team, their professional partners, the public purse, society, and of course organisations like Abilia and ourselves, because we can get some work out of it. So yeah, that's it. So that's the presentation finished. On my part, just make you aware, we've two further ones coming up. You can get the information on at Eventbrite. One on the 1st of April for supporting autistic young people to understand sexuality and gender. And then one later on in April, supporting parenthood, raising neurodivergent children and not losing your issues. And that's a conversation with both Corey and myself, which Bill is chairing. Believe it or not, Corey's daughter and my daughter were diagnosed roughly at the same age, but 27 years apart. So that for me will be an interesting discussion. Thank you very much. Any questions? Anybody from anywhere? Chuck in the discussion, feel free.
Martin's one of my colleagues, Tom, so he's recently joined us.
Is that all we've got left?
Hi, everybody. I just joined to get more input, but thank you for saying that, Bryn. So thank you.
You're welcome. That's us done. Short and sweet.
Brilliant. Cheers, Tom. I'll speak to you soon.
No worries. Take care. I'll talk to you later.
Nice to meet you, Bill.
Well,
Cheers,
thank you for
bye.
the presentation. It was really good. Thank you again. Greetings from Germany. Take care. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Cheers, Bill. Thank you.